Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is your special tropical update on Category 2 Hurricane Ian making its way towards Cuba, where it will make landfall tonight. As you see from the impact map, updated mainly for the United States on this one, we now have significant impacts expected over much of Florida. Almost the entire state, excluding the Panhandle, will receive moderate impacts due to the conditions associated with Ian. The main things are going to be those winds in the area that there are hurricane force winds, which is not the entire peninsula. Rainfall, which is likely throughout the peninsula in the amount of 6 to 10 inches. The entire peninsula is expected to get 6 to 10 inches of rain, again, aside from the Panhandle, with a swath where you have that red there, that high risk of 10 to 15 inches, possibly in areas up to 20 inches, according to the Hurricane Center. And with that, of course, increasing perhaps into multiple feet of rain. Beyond that, we are also expecting hurricane force winds, perhaps to major hurricane force. Those major hurricane force areas outlined by the southern region headquarters are highlighted in pink here, just as they are at the southern region. Those with hurricane impacts in red, and those and continuing down as needed. Also, of course, is storm surge now expected to be 5 to 10 feet in certain areas, as well as much of Florida, perhaps even portions of Georgia. Expect to get storm surge as well. We'll move through this threat by threat. Again, all we're talking about tonight is Ian. I'll try to make it a decently short video. As you can see, Ian continues to strengthen, has great satellite presentation. Cuba might delay some of the strengthening somewhat, but it will resume strengthening once it gets into the Caribbean. As you can see here, the latest hurricane forecast, for the latest Hurricane Center forecast, shows much the same stories yesterday, or as this afternoon. But it's worth noting two things. One, it makes that turn into Florida earlier than expected, which means the storm will be stronger wind-wise. But again, the winds on this aren't the biggest concern. The main concern is this slow movement, expanding wind field. So that means lots of rain, lots of storm surge associated with Ian. So as you see here, 2 p.m. Wednesday, it's located basically just off the coast. You would think, oh, by this evening or early in the morning it may make landfall. No, it doesn't even make landfall by Tuesday afternoon. It's probably Tuesday evening that it makes landfall according to this model. Again, if it shifts a little bit more inland, it might make landfall Thursday morning. But still, it's going to sit over that area of Florida. So the landfall timing location does not really matter. The point is, somewhere in central Florida, there will be a significant amount of weighting going on in terms of how much water is falling from the sky. As you can see, the board is lit up for the first time this hurricane season. All watches and warnings are in effect for various locations. Of course, check with your local weather forecast office for the latest for your specific location. But as you can see here, I mean, even in the United States, we have everything going on. There's hurricane warnings, hurricane watches, tropical storm warnings, watches, storm surge warnings and watches as well. We'll begin first with the wind. The wind impacts, like I said, major hurricane force are possible from Cape Coral northward past Tampa, as well as hurricane in that red, gale force in the orange, that's about 60 miles an hour or more, and then tropical storm force winds possible in the yellow, that's going to be 40 miles an hour or more in those areas. Again, that does not mean if you're in Miami, you're going to get a 39 mile an hour wind. It means you could get it. It says a potential, and so that doesn't mean you will get that. As you can see from the cone here, even, which I prefer to the cone because it shows a probability track, it's probably about a 30-40% chance that Miami gets tropical storm force winds. And they won't get it at the earliest until Tuesday at 2 p.m. This graphic, I think, is extremely helpful. Very happy the Hurricane Center makes this available. And of course, as we can see here, tropical storm conditions beginning to affect the Keys Tuesday morning. That's tomorrow morning. And then upward throughout the coast with time Wednesday morning. Northern Florida can then begin to expect this. But again, we have time on that a little bit, and that's the earliest arrival of the earliest. Here's the storm surge, as you can see here. They match up well. It's kind of like the Weather Service made both of these graphics here. And so as you can see, again, 1 foot, 1 to 3 is going to be in that yellow. 3 to 6 is going to be in the orange on the first graphic. 6 to 9 is going to be red, and then greater than 9 is pink. Now on the second graphic, it's a slightly different color scheme telling the same story. The highest surge in Tampa Bay, the next highest surge down in Charlotte Harbor, as well as up between the Swanee and Anclote rivers, and then more storm surge as you move away from the center of the storm, of course. Rain and flooding impacts are going to be a huge concern with this one again because of that big slowdown. We can expect part of this pink and purple to actually move inland over Florida. And so, we could see in excess of 2 feet of rain in much of this location near and north of Tampa Bay, heading into the Big Bend, but not quite there. Again, and as I mentioned earlier, most, if not all, of the Florida Peninsula is expected to get at least 6 inches of rain. And that's also reflected here in the flooding rain threat being moderate to major over much of the state. Would not be surprised if this gets boosted to extreme due to the just insane craziness going on here. Ian continuing to strengthen, as I mentioned, now at Category 2, 100 miles an hour. Again, Category 3 at least, could be slightly stronger. It'll reach peak intensity about a day and a half from now, and then begin to decrease as it moves over land. The model's coming into much more agreement now. Again, Tampa Bay areas north, south, near Tampa Bay are really the main highlight here for Ian. That's all I have for today. Again, a special nighttime update here on Ian because of the significant impacts expected to Florida. I just want to update you guys on that. That's it for now. Chris C7 with the Gotham Media.